Welcome back to Soul Shift, where modern science meets soul and the conversations are real, reflective, and rooted in growth. This is the space for women navigating transitions that are emotional, physical, spiritual, and learning how to come home to themselves in new ways. But today is a little different. Christine and I get to interview someone you hear every week, but maybe don't fully know. Our dear friend and soul sister, Allie. Before we dive in, I want to introduce her the way you might not have heard before. Allie Anderson is a functional wellness practitioner and the founder of Aging Well with Allie. She works with individuals and families across the country, helping them make sense of their symptoms, their labs, and their lives, and build sustainable rhythms for long-term vitality. But today isn't about credentials. It's about Allie's story.
Welcome to Soul Shift, where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come alive.
Soul Shift is your weekly dose of inspiration and a reminder that meaningful change can be both gentle and powerful.
Together, we'll unlock practical tools, share conversations that spark something beautiful, and celebrate every facet of your incredible human experience.
Your energy matters, your growth matters, and you matter. Let's shift boldly,
joyfully,
together.
Allie, welcome to your own podcast.
Thank you, Mindy and Chris. I'm so looking forward to connecting with you both today.
Great. So let's start here. People know you as steady, thoughtful, grounded, but you've shared that you actually love a fast-paced life. So who are you naturally?
Maybe that's a good question. It is so true. I think anybody who certainly knows me from my youth knows that I love to be involved. I love saying yes to everything. I love building things. I love momentum. And I live a pretty fast-paced life personally. I move fast, I think fast, I talk fast, sometimes a little bit too fast. I enjoy getting things done. And even going back to as a teenager, and we'll talk about that later, I've always kind of lived this very fast-paced life. But just because I have a high capacity for energy doesn't mean that it's always served me well.
It's a great introspective perception.
I mean, especially since your work is so much about regulation, I love to hear almost like a before and after, it sounds like.
You know, Chris, that's right. It is almost like before and after. It's a little bit ironic that I sort of enjoy living a very fast-paced mindset, but at the same time, regulation is something that I have. I learned that I need to practice daily, and now I've gotten to the place where I love practicing it. I feel so connected when I practice it, and I would never say that regulation or even calming myself down is something I've mastered, but it is definitely something that I have fallen in love with. And something I know now that I didn't necessarily know when I was younger is that my body has always been talking to me. And I think all of our bodies always talk to all of us, right? I think first it begins with a little whisper. First, we feel a little bit off. We feel a little bit tired. We feel a little bit inflamed. And we kind of push on, especially someone who lives in a more fast-paced mindset. But if we keep pushing, what I learned is the whispers get louder, and eventually the body will scream to us through symptoms. And if we continue to ignore it, sometimes we end up hitting a brick wall. Sometimes can be a pretty big diagnosis. So I have learned that while I can naturally live kind of fast-paced, bringing my body back down to a slow, regulated state is so important for me. And it's important really for my soul. It's important and how much I've fallen in love with it.
Yeah. Again, great perspective. And what I've learned and what I showed my clients often is the body always wins, right? You can't think your way out of the need for regulation. So when did your body first interrupt that pace, Allie?
Well, the first time I knew it was interrupting it was when I was 15, which is pretty young, right? And my right eye went blurry, what seemed to me like overnight, but I'm sure that it wasn't overnight. But one day I couldn't see the board in high school and the colors all looked washed out. And even moving my right eye around hurt a lot. And so, of course, with that, I went through a lot of testing and eventually I had an MRI, and MRIs were even not that common back then. And eventually I was diagnosed with optic neuritis in my right eye and then multiple sclerosis, or MS. And there were no medications at the time. So I was told at 15 years old, take care of your body and hope for the best. And to be honest with you, if I look back, I think my body was probably communicating with me for a really long time. But I was so young, I really just didn't know. I didn't know I was supposed to listen to my body, and I certainly didn't know how to listen to my body.
Yeah. I mean, think about that's a lot for a 15-year-old. I don't know about you, but I wasn't that intuitive when I was 15. So I give you a lot of credit.
Thanks, Chris. I don't know that I was intuitive then when I was 15 either. The body had to finally scream to me. And when you lose vision in your right eye, it was enough for both my parents and myself to say, okay, I guess we should go see the doctor and get some testing done. And obviously, medical intervention progressed me forward to getting enough testing done to be diagnosed with MS. But I also have to say, when I was 15, it was 1989. So this is before the internet. And I do often express that that was a blessing, that it was before the internet. I couldn't Google worst case scenarios. I just knew what I was told was that I needed to take care of my body. And that really planted a seed for me. And I really knew that diet and lifestyle, although at age 15, I didn't call it diet and lifestyle, but I knew that that was going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life because I was told there's no medication for you and you just got to take care of your body. Good luck.
Yeah, so at 15, how do you internalize that? How do you conceptualize as a 15-year-old who's in the stage of her life where what matters so much is being a part of what's going on, right? Belonging, feeling connected to your peers. So how did that play out for you at 15?
You know, it's a really good question and one I've actually thought a lot about. And if I'm really honest, there was a lot of me that was able to push it aside because the internet didn't exist. I love the internet for a lot of reasons, but Google didn't exist. And so I was able to say, like, I don't really know what that is. Okay, I'll take care of my body. There's pros and cons, of course, to the internet because I didn't really even know how to take care of my body. And that take care of my body certainly went through different stages. Back in the 90s, it went through eating everything fat-free, which we know today is not beneficial to my body. It wasn't beneficial to autoimmune disease, but I knew I needed to take care of my body. And luckily, also a female at age 15, we were all kind of interested in taking care of our body, whatever that meant for us. So it was maybe sort of an awakening to like, okay, well, let's start thinking about what does this mean to take care of your body. Maybe a lot of the way I also fit in. My friends and I did our things that we thought were taking care of our body, whether that was sadly eating fat-free at the time or was, taking walks together or going to exercise classes together or other things.
Yeah.
But it's a good question. It's
Yeah.
a young age.
But give yourself some grace on that because when we were following the fat-free craze, it was because at the time, science told us that's what we should be doing. Hindsight is 2020.
It is, and it's something I even tell my clients today that this is what we believe today. And while I think the science is more robust than it was back then, there's always a chance that something will change in 5 or 10 years the way we believe today. So we do the best that we can do. We wrap ourselves in a hug and we say, I'm doing the best I can do today.
Always do the best we can, right? And so going back to that time, you were doing the best that you could.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to today. What did becoming an adult look like for you? And how did that change your perspective on self-care?
I think taking care of my body was actually a gift that was given to me, right? The message, take care of your body. And I think that served me really well in my adult life, especially with MS. And it kept my MS quiet. And I knew to take care of my body during my pregnancies. I knew to take care of my body with both exercise, diet. I don't know that I necessarily knew how important sleep was until I was about 36 years old. And I actually had 3 young kids at the time. And this is the only other symptom I've had with MS since I was diagnosed. And in 2010, I had 3 young kids. I was so happy. I loved my life. I loved being a mom. I loved my kids dearly, as many people can relate to. And I really thought, I can do it all. I know how to eat well. I know how to exercise well. I was training for races and triathlons with my friends. I was volunteering at school. I was saying yes to everything because, apparently having 3 little kids wasn't enough. So I was doing it all, right? And on paper, I think a lot of people would have said I was healthy. But I'll tell you, going back to that question about regulation, what I was not considering was the stress of doing it all. And what does that do to the body, right? I was in go, go, go mode. And I thought that's just who I am. I can live really well in go, go, go mode. And then in 2010, again, what seemed like it was overnight, but it was not overnight. I woke up one day and my eyes stopped converging and I had double vision. And of course, I immediately wanted to blame it on dirty contacts and not getting enough sleep. But truth was, I was running my body into the ground by not ever allowing it to slow down. And it's another gift that I think I was honestly given. My body was talking to me, and it was definitely talking to me during that season of life. I didn't necessarily want to hear it before it had to scream at me and take convergence of my eyes away from me. But I look back and I knew it was talking to me for a long time. It was talking to me. I was fatigued. I had anxiety, I had aches and pains, all these things that were so normal. And I put that in quotations for a young mom who was doing it all. And I thought, I can just push through all of this. I'm great. I really would say, I'm great. But when those whispers became loud enough that they were screaming at me, I finally realized I can't outrun this.
I love that you refer to that time and those episodes as a gift. That just shows the depth of your character. That's very special because I've looked at it as you being a victim. But no, you looked at it as something that you could turn around and make yourself shine. And I'm just so grateful for that because we get to have this part of you.
Oh, thank you, Mindy. Thank you. No, it really was a gift. And I know it, especially now, because of how much I mentioned in the beginning, how much I love slowing down. It was a gift to introduce me to the idea of slowing down, right? And to regulating the body and to reminding myself how important it is just to come back to being with myself.
I mean, I can imagine that must have been really, really scary, having double vision. Mindy says you're referring to it as a gift. It's just really absolutely amazing. And so you've obviously learned a huge lesson through that experience. What did you think that moment taught you? Now looking back on it,
It taught me about the importance of really, as I mentioned, just slowing down. It taught me that leaning on friends and family when you need them is such an important step. And it just taught me that listening to my body is really important. When my body feels a little bit tired, it's okay to say, I'm a little bit tired. I'm not going to go to that event, or I'm not going to volunteer at that thing, or I have to say no to this. And I know that there's this message out there it's okay to say no, but then at the same time we get pulled and we feel kind of guilty about saying no. But it really taught me about the importance of I need to take care of me, because if I don't take care of me, I'm not going to have a body to live in, right? And there's a quote I really like a lot that is, if we don't take care of our wellness now, we're going to have to take care of our illness later. And I think about that often. And I think about if I don't slow down now and just really honor what my body needs, and as I've mentioned before, just wrap myself in a hug and say, I'm here for you. I'm going to take care of you and what you need now. And whether that's just slowing down, facing the sun, slowing down and drinking water. Sometimes it's the basic things, right? And sometimes it doesn't have to be really gigantic. I really never thought about not thinking of it as a gift because of how much that has come out of that, knowing that if I slow down, how much I get on the other end, right? So it really did teach me that there's so much beauty on the other end when you do things like look at the sun and you do things like walk in your backyard with bare feet. And sometimes it sounds silly, but sometimes I'm like, oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
And then you found functional medicine.
I did. And it was actually right after that I started diving into it. Probably because I was like, I've got to find the answer for why are my eyes not converging? Let me dig into this. But when I learned about functional wellness, that is when I really just realized, oh, wellness is about optimizing the functions of the body. It's not necessarily anything more than that. It's just making sure the functions of what our body are doing the best that they can do at that given time in our given lifestyle, given everything that's going on in our life. And it was the first time I really understood autoimmunity in a way that really made me feel empowered. And I really started to shift from, how do I fix this? What can I do to change this? And what other knowledge do I have to gain in order to fix this problem I'm having? Just to, what do I need to do right now to support my body? That's it. Just what do I need to do this moment to support my body? And then honestly, as I've mentioned, really just changed everything about the way I approach my own wellness. I approach the wellness of my family, and certainly how I help my clients approach wellness.
You've discovered functional medicine, you started your practice, and as far as I understand now, you work with that concierge model where you really bio-individualize it for each person. Is this where you began or did it transpire? Because everyone does it differently, right?
Yeah, and it's not where I began. I feel bad. I look back to the clients I first started working with, and to be honest with you, I just dumped a lot of information on them in the beginning because I was like, this is what works. Let me tell you everything I know. And if you have all this knowledge too, then you can run with it also. And it was really overwhelming to them. And then I realized it was overwhelming. So, I had different ways of doing it, but I created a 12-week program and thought, well, I'll explain in week 1 this, and in week 2, I'll explain the next thing, and in week 3. That still was really overwhelming. And what I realized is people don't need more information necessarily. Sometimes people just need someone walking beside them in this journey of health, and they need time. They need a safe place where they can land. And I really encourage them to think of me as one of their team members on their wellness journey. And we're going to do this together. I'm going to be walking beside them together to figure out what they need to improve their symptoms and improve whatever it is, whatever reason that they came to me for. And sometimes that's as simple as like, I just want to sleep a little bit better. And sometimes it's much bigger as a diagnosis they've come across. So that's the way I built my practice. It's slower, it's relational, which I think is very beneficial for them, for me. And it's really sustainable for the client. They really work at a pace that works for them. We make small changes that make a big difference, and we make changes that will stick for them.
And you have a framework. Can you tell us about that?
I do. Yeah. I created a framework which I call Listen, Translate, Empower, LTE.
Mm, I like that.
And first we listen. And I think that's probably what I've been talking into the most. I think that's probably one of the biggest important steps that I work with my clients is that beginning stage of first, we're just going to listen. We're going to listen to your symptoms. We're going to look at your patterns. We're going to talk about your nervous system. And we're just going to say, let's listen to what the body's been telling you. Has it been telling you for the last 50 years, for the last 10 years? Let's just identify what the body's been telling you, and let's try to listen before the body has to start screaming at you, right? And so we spend a good part of our time just slowing down and trying to also recognize patterns that we might be trying to override listening, right? So we override with caffeine. I feel a little bit tired. That's okay. I'll get a cup of coffee. We override with productivity, right? I feel a little anxious. That's okay. I'll just get all this done before I go to bed. And sometimes we even override with positivity. I know that I was guilty of this back in 2010 with the eyes converging. We override with like, I'm going to be fine. I'm good. Everything's great. How could anything be bad when I love my life so much, right? And so sometimes it's just slowing down to listen. So that's the first step of my framework. And then once we start listening, we start connecting everything. And then we translate. That's the T in the LTE. And we use the functional wellness labs to help us translate. We use questionnaires, we use lifestyle practices, and we look at both the internal stressors and the external stressors. The external stressors are a little bit more obvious, and internal stressors, a lot of times you have to dig a little bit. But we try to translate, what are we listening to and what is the body telling? We've been listening. Let's translate what the body's telling us. And let's try to make sense of it. And let's try to use that translation so that we can empower. That's the E. And we try to empower. And I try to empower my client to make sustainable shifts that work for them. It doesn't have to be a shift that works for everybody. It doesn't have to be a shift that everybody else is doing or what they heard on social media. It just needs to be a shift that works for them today. And it might be months from now or years from now, they shift that. But right now, this is what we're going to do today to make you feel better. And I really do think that's the important part of aging well, is that we listen, we translate what we're listening to, and then we just empower with sustainable small shifts.
Love it.
It's so logical, but then it's so powerful. And to me, it's very organic. Like it makes sense. Just moving from one to the next, right?
And it's sequential.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
So, Allie, as far as I understand, you just don't work with individuals, right? Do you also work with families? Is that a focus for you?
I do. I wouldn't say families is a focus, but I would say I love when I get to work with families. I really love it. It's really one of the favorite parts of my practice. I have several families where it's 3 generations, where I work with grandma and I work with mom, who is about my age, and I work with their teenage daughters. And I have several of those, and that is so much fun to me. I work with a lot of married couples, which I think is also equally as fun because they're both so engaged in their wellness journey and they're supporting each other, right? And maybe one of them needs to make a tweak here and the other one needs to make a tweak over here, but they're supporting each other, which is really, really powerful. Neither one of you will be surprised to hear this, but I find that when one nervous system shifts, the entire family shifts, right? We all know this so well that we don't just inherit our genes, we inherit the lifestyle pace. We inherit our stress patterns. And so it's so important that we're doing this all together. And as I mentioned before, 2 people in one relationship have to make the same change. But it's so nice when relationship can respect the changes that each other are making and support the changes that each other are making. And I really do believe that aging well is communal, right? I think that when we have support and people know we're doing this, that right there can calm the nervous system and really help us all age well.
Yeah. So, Allie, what does aging well mean for you right now, today?
Oh, Mindy, I love that question. I think it's important for me to say that aging well doesn't mean avoiding illness, right? I mean, I was diagnosed with MS. I have MS, and that is part of my story. My goal in aging well is not to beat my MS or cure my MS. But aging well is to listen to my body and give my body what it needs and listen to it when it's still just whispering and making sure that my body knows that I'll always be listening. I'll always give it the best that I can give it. And it means loving that I like to live at a fast pace, but also respecting that I need to slow down. And I mentioned before, I haven't mastered regulation, but I practice it daily. And I think that's what aging well is. It's okay if you don't master everything perfectly and you do everything, you eat the perfect diet and you get the perfect amount of sleep, but it is important that you practice it daily. And you eat well, you move well, you decrease your stress load wherever you can, and you build rhythms into your day that allow you to show up. And for me personally, I want to make sure I can show up today, but I also want to make sure I can show up decades from now. And so what I often say is aging well is creating a partnership with your body.
Makes so much sense.
Yes.
Allie, I was just so honored that we were able to essentially turn the microphone onto you today and feature you and have our audience learn more about just who you are, not just only as a practitioner, but what drives you and what your why is. And I can see even more so the passion you have for this work. It's really inspiring.
Oh, thank you both so much. Thanks for holding space for me today. And it just really warms my heart to be with both of you and to share my story.
Where can people find you?
I have a website, which is allieandersonwellness.com. And I'm on Instagram at Aging Well with Allie. I'm on LinkedIn as Allie Anderson Wellness, Facebook Allie Anderson Wellness, Allie Anderson Wellness on YouTube, and Aging Well with Allie. And then you can also find me on this podcast.
Right? Wonderful. Well, this has been such a joy. I know Mindy and I have enjoyed it so much. And to everyone listening, whether you're navigating a disease or a life transition, or simply just trying to get down the pace of your life, remember this: your body is not trying to betray you. It's simply communicating. And all this regulation talk we're speaking about, it's definitely not a destination. Exactly what Allie said, it's a daily practice. So this is Soul Shift, where science meets soul, and healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to who you've always been. So we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If Soulship feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.